The twin suns of the planet Varelia painted the royal palace in gold and crimson. Its marble towers gleamed, yet inside those walls, silence ruled. Princess Seria of the Valith Empire sat beside two small crystal pods, each one glowing faintly with the weak heartbeat of her daughters. They were dying. The royal healers had tried everything: ancient remedies, nanotech medicine, and energy transfusions, but nothing worked. The Valith race was powerful and long-lived, but their biology was delicate. Once the internal light dimmed, it rarely returned. Seria's slender fingers trembled as she touched the pod's cold glass. "Hold on, my little ones," she whispered. Her voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion and fear. For the first time in her royal life, she felt powerless. The healers bowed low, their voices shaking. "Your Highness, we can no longer stabilize them. Their light is fading fast." Something inside Seria shattered. The galaxy had seen her as a proud ruler, a commander of fleets, a symbol of Valith perfection. But now, all that glory meant nothing. She was just a mother watching her children slip away. Then an old advisor stepped forward, a withered alien with eyes that had seen too many wars. "There may be one chance, my princess." Seria turned sharply, her silver eyes narrowing. "Speak." "The humans," the old one said softly. "The Terrans. Their biology is strange. Their hearts adapt, heal, and bond with others. Some call them chaos incarnate. Others call them hope. Their blood carries something we cannot explain." "Perhaps it could—" Seria interrupted, disbelief and anger in her voice. "You speak of myths. Humans are primitive, emotional beings. They fight, destroy, and burn what they touch." "Perhaps," the elder said, "but they also love. And their love defies every law of the universe." The room fell silent. Seria looked back at her daughter's pods. Their small forms shimmered faintly, then dimmed again. She swallowed hard. Logic told her to ignore the old man. Pride told her it was foolish. But the mother in her, the mother didn't care about pride. "Find one," she whispered. "Bring me a human." It took 3 galactic weeks. The royal envoys searched distant outposts, human colonies, and frontier stations. Then one day, a Terran transport ship landed on Varelia's moon. From it stepped a tall human wearing a simple jacket with a faded Terran flag on the shoulder. His name was Captain Elias Ward. He was not what Seria expected. No glowing armor, no genetic enhancements, just a man with tired blue eyes and a quiet, steady gaze. He bowed slightly, though awkwardly, before the alien princess. "You asked for a human," he said, his voice calm but respectful. "I'm here." Seria studied him. "You know what I ask of you?" "They said your daughters are dying," Elias replied. "And you think I can help?" "I do not think," she said sharply. "I hope. You are here because of that hope." Elias nodded. "Then I'll try." The royal scientists scanned his body, his blood, his neural patterns. Everything about him was strange to them, so unstable, so wild, and yet full of energy they couldn't understand. Elias stood silently, letting them work, watching Seria's desperate eyes. Finally, the chief healer approached the princess. "We can attempt a bond. His life force can be connected to theirs temporarily. But if it fails, both sides may suffer." Seria looked at Elias. "You will risk your life for 2 alien children you've never met?" Elias smiled faintly. "I was a soldier once. Saving lives. That's what keeps us human." For the first time in many cycles, Seria's heart trembled with something she hadn't felt in years: faith. And as the machines hummed to life and the strange human reached out his hand toward the glowing pods, the palace lights flickered. The moment his skin touched the crystal, a surge of warmth spread through the air. The dying light of her daughters pulsed, faintly at first, then brighter. Seria gasped, her silver eyes wide. "What are you?" Elias just closed his eyes and whispered, just human. To be continued in Part 2. Would you like me to continue with Part 2, around 650-700 words, in the same emotional third-person style? When the light returned to the room, the silence broke into gasps. The healers stared in disbelief. The two pods that had been fading moments ago now glowed with soft golden light. For the first time in months, faint energy lines pulsed through the small forms inside. Princess Seria's breath caught. She stepped closer, afraid to hope too much, afraid to believe her eyes. "They're stronger," she whispered, voice trembling. "Their light, it's growing." Elias didn't move. His hand remained pressed to the crystal pod, his eyes closed, sweat glistening on his forehead. The energy link between him and the alien children shimmered like threads of starlight. But along with that glow came pain. His heartbeat quickened, his body shook slightly. The chief healer warned, "His vitals are unstable. If this continues, his system could fail." Seria's hand clenched. "Stop the transfer." But Elias opened his eyes, breathing hard, and said softly, "Not yet." There was something in his tone, firm, unbreakable. The healers hesitated. Even the princess couldn't command him in that moment. He was just a man, fragile and mortal, but his will filled the entire room. Minutes passed. Then, slowly, the readings stabilized. The energy link faded naturally, leaving both pods shining gently with steady light. Elias fell to one knee, exhausted but alive. The healers rushed to check him, but Seria stepped forward first. She knelt, lowering herself to his level, a rare gesture for royalty. "You did it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You gave them life." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "I just shared a little of mine." Seria looked at him in awe. To her, humans had always been chaotic creatures, dangerous, unpredictable, full of emotion. Yet here was one, standing before her, who had risked his life without demand for reward or recognition. "Why?" she asked quietly. "You owe me nothing." Elias looked toward the pods where two faintly glowing figures rested peacefully. "Because they're children," he said simply. "Doesn't matter what species, every life deserves a chance." His words struck something deep within Seria. She had ruled her people with logic and order, never allowing emotions to cloud her judgment. But this human, he lived by them, and somehow that made him stronger. Hours passed. The healers confirmed that the princess's daughters were stable. Their energy signatures were rising steadily. But something unexpected also appeared in the readings. Their life force now carried traces of human resonance, a strange warm pulse that none of the Valith could explain. Seria stood beside the observation chamber watching the children sleep. The old advisor joined her quietly. "It seems, Princess," he said softly, "the human has changed them." Seria didn't answer immediately. Her gaze lingered on Elias, who was sitting by the window, staring out at the twin suns. He looked ordinary, yet he had done what her empire's greatest minds could not. "What makes them so different?" she murmured. "What makes them able to do the impossible?" The elder smiled faintly. "Perhaps it is not their strength, but their hearts. They do not fear loss. They fight it." Seria's expression softened. For the first time in her life, she felt a strange emotion toward another species, respect, and something more. That night, she visited Elias in his guest chamber. He was awake, sitting quietly, looking at the stars beyond the balcony. "I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid," she said softly. "You have done what none of my kind could." Elias turned, his eyes gentle. "You don't owe me anything, Princess. Just take care of them." Seria hesitated. "They are stable, but the healers say their bond with you still lingers. If you leave too soon, it may weaken." Elias looked down, thoughtful. "Then I'll stay until they're safe." Seria nodded slowly, though her heart trembled again. She didn't understand how this human, this fragile being, could be so selfless. As she left his room, she looked once more at the twin suns rising beyond the palace walls. For the first time in years, she felt warmth in her chest, a light that was not from the stars, but from within. In the quiet of that alien dawn, she whispered to herself, "Perhaps humanity's chaos is what we were missing all along." To be continued in Part 3. Would you like me to continue Part 3, around 650 words, in the same simple emotional narration style where the bond between Elias and the alien daughters grows deeper and the Empire starts reacting to his presence? Days passed and life in the royal palace began to shift. The twins, Lyra and Salen, were still weak but improving, their golden glow steady and stronger with each cycle. Princess Saria spent every moment she could with them, yet she noticed a strange truth. Where Elias walked, the children's laughter seemed to follow. The human had become more than a visitor. He was calm, gentle, and patient, yet full of quiet determination. Even when the palace halls buzzed with guards and advisors, Elias walked as if he belonged. And in the children's eyes, he was no longer just a savior, he was a friend. One afternoon, Saria watched from the observation balcony as Elias sat cross-legged on the floor of the nursery. He held Lyra in his arms, telling her a story of Earth, of oceans, forests, and stars she had never seen. Selen clung to his shoulder, her tiny hands gripping the edge of his jacket. Eyes wide with wonder, Saria's heart softened. Humans were chaotic, yes, but they had warmth that even her people's perfection could not replicate. Elias spoke of courage, hope, and kindness in ways that transcended language, and the children responded, not just with smiles, but with something deeper, a bond for me. The court noticed too. Advisors whispered, questioning the princess. "Your Highness, why allow a human to remain within the palace?" one asked, voice trembling. "He is untested. He is unpredictable. This could anger our allies, even our enemies." Saria's eyes hardened. "He is not here to serve our politics," she replied. "He is here to save my children, and for that he earns my trust." But not all were convinced. The Valeth, though graceful and powerful, were creatures of order. A human with his erratic emotions defied every law they knew. Some feared him. Others quietly envied him. But Saria did not waver. She had seen the strength in humanity firsthand. The courage, the selflessness, the unexpected brilliance that defied all calculation. One evening, a warning arrived from the palace perimeter. A faction from the outer colonies had grown restless, believing the presence of a human in the royal court was a sign of weakness. They sent emissaries demanding that the princess exile him immediately. Saria read the message and felt the weight of her empire pressing down on her shoulders. Yet when she turned to Elias, she found him standing calmly, as if ready for whatever came next. "Your daughters are growing stronger," he said softly. "Let them shine. Let them live. Everything else, we can face together." Saria nodded. His courage was infectious. She realized then that humans had a rare gift. They chose to act even when fear was present, even when the odds seemed impossible. The next day, Saria called the council to the Great Hall. Her voice rang clear and unwavering. "I will not exile a being who has given life to my children. If any of you see weakness in his presence, then look again. See the light in my daughter's eyes. This human's presence has not endangered us. It has saved us." A silence fell. The advisors exchanged nervous glances. Many had never seen the princess speak with such conviction. They realized that this human, though different, had shifted the balance of power in ways they could not measure. Later, in the quiet of the nursery, Saria knelt beside Elias. "You have changed more than just them," she said, voice soft. "You have changed me, and perhaps this whole empire." Elias shook his head, smiling faintly. "I didn't do anything magical. I just cared. Sometimes that's enough." Saria's eyes glistened. "For you it is enough. For us it is everything." And as the twin suns set beyond the horizon, the golden light of Lyra and Selen pulsed gently, echoing the bond that had formed between human and Valeth, a bond stronger than politics, stronger than fear, and stronger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. In that moment, Saria understood the truth. Humanity was not perfect, But in its imperfection lay a strength her empire had never known, a strength that could defy death, heal the helpless, and ignite hope where none had remained. To be continued in Part 4, if you want. I can continue with Part 4, 650 words, where external threats challenge the palace, and Elias's courage proves the human's true power even further. Do you want me to proceed? The calm of the palace could not last. Weeks of peace were shattered when a fleet of unknown ships appeared in Varelia's orbit. Dark, angular, and menacing, they moved with deadly precision. The sensors picked up no communication attempts, only weapons charging and shields humming. Princess Saria stood at the command balcony, her silver eyes scanning the tactical display. Her daughters slept peacefully in the nursery, unaware of the looming danger. The royal advisors whispered, panic in their voices. Your Highness, these are raiders from the Outer Rim. They have seen the human in the palace as a weakness. They will attack. Saria's jaw tightened. She turned, her gaze settling on Elias, who stood quietly behind her, observing the fleet. His blue eyes, steady and unwavering, met hers. We fight together, he said simply. We protect them. That's what humans do. Saria felt a surge of determination. Her empire had fought countless wars, but she had never known fear like this, not for herself, but for her children. Yet watching Elias, she realized something she had never understood before. Humans had a courage that did not rely on weapons, shields, or strategy alone. Their courage came from the heart. The council scrambled, issuing commands, activating defenses, and readying the palace fleet. But the alien raiders were faster, stronger, and more ruthless than anyone had predicted. The first shots rang out in space, bright flashes against the darkness. The palace hull trembled. Elias walked toward the control panel. Let me help, he said. The Valeth hesitated. He was human, fragile, untrained in their technology. But Saria nodded, placing trust where logic hesitated. He sat, hands flying over the controls with surprising ease. His human intuition worked where calculation failed. Shields redirected, weapons adjusted, and in moments the raiders' first wave began to falter. Small victories, but enough to give hope. Your Highness, one advisor said nervously, we cannot hold them for long. Saria turned, her eyes blazing. Then we do not hold them for long, we strike back. Every inch of this palace, every life within it we protect. No one threatens my children. The raiders launched boarding pods. Chaos erupted in the corridors. Guards struggled against advanced alien combatants. Amid the turmoil, Elias moved like a calm storm, guiding the guards, holding back enemies with precise strikes. His human strength and quick thinking turned certain defeat into small victories. In the nursery, Saria watched over her daughters, her heart in her throat. Then a blast shook the walls nearby. She rushed toward the sound and found Elias shielding the children from falling debris. Without hesitation, he pushed the pods out of harm's way, taking the brunt of the impact himself. Elias, Saria cried, rushing to him. He grinned faintly, brushing dust off his jacket. They're safe, he said. That's what matters. Saria felt tears prick her eyes. Here was a human, a single being standing against impossible odds, not for glory, not for power, but for life. She had seen strength in her empire before, but never like this. It was raw, fearless, and pure. By nightfall, the raiders retreated, broken and confused. The palace was damaged, but the children were unharmed. Saria walked through the quiet corridors, her hand resting on Elias's shoulder. You have shown me. Humanity is not weak. It is fire, she said softly. Elias shrugged, humble as ever. We fight for what matters, always. Saria looked at her daughters, sleeping safely, their lights steady and warm. And that, she whispered, is why you will always be welcome here. For the first time, she understood the unmeasurable power humans carried, the courage to protect, the will to act when all seemed lost, and the love that could defy fear itself. As the twin sun set beyond the palace walls, casting long shadows across the battleground, Saria realized that Elias had not only saved her children, but had changed the Valeth Empire forever. To be continued in Part 5, if you want. I can continue with Part 5, 650 words, where Saria begins to see the deeper emotional bond between Elias and her daughters, and how it reshapes her own understanding of leadership and humanity. Do you want me to continue? The palace had begun to recover from the raid, but Princess Saria felt a new tension settling over the halls. Her empire had faced threats before, yet nothing had tested her like this, and nothing had changed her perspective more than Elias. The twins, Lyra and Seelan, were now awake and energetic. Their golden light pulsed warmly, brighter than before, but their curiosity about the human who had saved them was growing stronger every day. They followed him everywhere, giggling when he made funny faces or told stories of faraway worlds. Saria watched from a balcony, her heart both heavy and full. The bond between human and children was undeniable. They laughed, cried, and even imitated him as he moved about the palace, learning the alien ways yet teaching them a strange, wonderful resilience. Elias noticed her watching. He turned, blue eyes calm but honest. "They trust me," he said softly. "And that trust, it will shape who they become." Saria nodded. "You've done more than I could have imagined. They are alive, happy, learning, thriving. And your presence has changed them. Perhaps changed me too." He smiled faintly, his human warmth filling the space. "I didn't do it alone," he said. "You fought with me, Princess. You believed when no one else would." Saria felt a wave of emotion she couldn't name. Humans were fragile, unpredictable, yet somehow unbreakable. In Elias, she had seen strength that could not be measured in fleets or technology. Strength born of care, courage, and the willingness to act even when the outcome was uncertain. Later, she visited the nursery. The children had grown comfortable enough to climb onto Elias's lap, their laughter bright and unguarded. Lyra whispered something and Seelan giggled, their tiny hands holding his. For a moment, Saria simply watched. The human who had risked everything now shaping the lives of her daughters in ways no Valeth could. "You've given them more than life," Saria said, kneeling beside him. "You've given them hope." Elias looked at her, serious for a moment. "Hope is all anyone needs to keep going," he said. "Life, it's worth fighting for every day, no matter the odds." The words struck Saria deeply. She had led empires, commanded fleets, and solved conflicts across the galaxy. Yet she had never heard anything so simple, so pure, that could carry such power. Over the following days, Saria noticed subtle changes in her court. Advisors who had once questioned Elias now watched him with quiet respect. Guards followed his strategies during drills, learning from his instinct rather than theory. Even distant colonies sent messages of admiration, impressed that a single human had endured where their fleets had struggled. One evening, as the twin sun set and bathed the palace in amber light, Saria stood with Elias on the balcony. The children slept peacefully inside, their soft glow illuminating the nursery walls. "You've changed the empire," she said quietly, "and perhaps the way I see everything. Life, hope, strength." Elias shrugged, but a small smile played on his lips. "I didn't come here to change your world," he said. "I just came to save 2 children. Everything else was a bonus." Saria's silver eyes glistened. "You have done more than save them. You've reminded me that even in a perfect empire, there is always room for something greater. Compassion, courage, and the fire of life that cannot be measured in rules or plans." Elias looked toward the nursery. "They're ready to face the universe now," he said softly. "And so are you." Saria reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. For the first time, she felt the strange warmth of human connection. Something beyond rank, beyond duty, beyond protocol. She understood then that humanity's strength was not in its technology or power, but in its spirit, its courage, and its love. And in the quiet of the palace under the twin suns, Saria realized that the light within her daughters and the light in her empire would shine far brighter because of this human who had dared to stand with them. To be continued in Part 6. Do you want me to continue with Part 6, 650 words, where external forces challenge the palace again, testing Elias and Saria's growing trust and highlighting humanity's unique resilience even further? The days of peace were short-lived. Reports came in from the outer colonies. Rogue factions, jealous of the palace's renewed strength, were gathering fleets. Rumors whispered that they saw Elias as a dangerous anomaly, an unpredictable human whose presence had saved the Valeth children. Some called it weakness, others called it treachery. Either way, a storm was coming. Princess Saria stood on the balcony, her silver eyes scanning the stars beyond. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows across the palace walls. Beside her, Elias stood quietly, his hands clasped behind his back, observing the horizon. He didn't flinch at the news, didn't panic, but Saria could see his mind calculating, planning, preparing. "They will attack at first light," said the chief advisor. "We must evacuate the children and retreat." Saria shook her head. "No, we fight. And we fight together. Her voice was calm, but her heart raced. She had never felt fear like this. Not for herself, but for Lyra and Seelan. Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then we make sure they are safe. And we show them why humans never give up. Night fell. The palace was alive with preparations. Shields were strengthened, weapons calibrated, and troops stationed at key points. Yet in the nursery, the twins slept peacefully, unaware of the looming danger. Their golden glow pulsed steadily, fueled by the human who had shared his life energy with them weeks before. At dawn, the fleet arrived. Black ships filled the skies, their weapons glinting in the early light. The Valeth defenders prepared to engage, but the enemy was swift and ruthless. Explosions rocked the palace, alarms blared, and chaos threatened to overwhelm every corridor. Elias moved like a calm storm through the battlefield. His mind was fast, his reflexes sharp. He guided the Valeth troops, predicting enemy movements, adjusting their tactics in ways no one had expected. Even in the face of overwhelming numbers, his courage never wavered. Saria fought alongside her people, but her eyes kept returning to Elias. She watched as he leaped into danger to protect the children's wing, blocking a strike that would have destroyed the nursery. The man was mortal, yet he faced death without hesitation. His fear was real, but it never controlled him. Inside the nursery, Lyra and Seelan awoke to the sounds of battle. Fear flashed across their faces, but Elias was there in an instant, kneeling and smiling at them. "It's okay," he said. "I've got you. We'll be fine." His human presence radiated calm and strength, and slowly, the twins' fear melted away. Saria felt a surge of emotion she had never allowed herself before. Pride, relief, admiration, and something deeper. She realized then that humanity's greatest power was not technology, not weapons, not strategy. It was the willingness to act when all seemed lost, to protect the weak, to stand when others would falter. The battle raged for hours. The Valeth soldiers, guided by Elias's instinct and courage, began to push back the enemy. Ships that had once seemed unstoppable were repelled, and by midday the invaders were retreating. Exhausted but alive, the palace stood. Saria entered the nursery, kneeling beside the twins. They clung to her, their golden light steady and strong. She looked up at Elias, who was leaning against a console, breathless but smiling faintly. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved them again. And us." Elias shook his head. "We did it together," he said. "You trusted me. That made all the difference." For the first time, Saria understood fully what humans carried inside them. Courage, hope, and an unbreakable spirit that could ignite even the darkest hour. It was more powerful than any Valeth weapon, any shield, any empire, and as the twin suns set once more, she realized the truth she could no longer ignore. Humanity's fire could change worlds, heal hearts, and protect the innocent when all seemed lost. The palace was quiet now. The battle was over, the enemy fleet gone, and the Valeth soldiers tended to the wounded. Yet in the stillness, a new kind of emotion filled the halls: relief, awe, and the quiet realization of what had truly saved them. Princess Saria walked through the corridors, her silver eyes softened by exhaustion and gratitude. She reached the nursery, where Lyra and Seelan sat on the floor, playing quietly under the golden glow of their restored energy. Their laughter was light, free, unburdened by fear, and there among them was Elias, the human who had risked everything, who had defied logic, fear, and the expectations of an entire empire. He sat on the floor with the twins, telling them stories of faraway planets, of oceans and forests, and of the humans who lived among the stars. Saria knelt beside him, her eyes studying his calm, steady face. "You've given them life," she said softly. "More than life, you've given them hope, courage, and a future." Elias looked up, tired but smiling. "I just did what anyone would do," he said. "I protect what matters. That's all." Saria shook her head. "No, Elias, you've done more than anyone could. My daughters are alive because of you. This palace, this empire, it will never forget you." The twins giggled, tugging at his jacket. Lyra whispered, "You're our hero, Elias." Seelan nodded, adding, "We love you." Even the princess felt a lump in her throat. Humans were strange, chaotic beings full of contradictions, but in their imperfections they carried strength beyond measure. Elias had risked his life, faced impossible odds, and done it all not for glory, not for power, but because he cared. That night, as the palace quieted and the twin moons rose in the sky, Saria found herself on the balcony again, Elias beside her. The stars shone brightly, reflecting off the palace walls. She looked at him, her heart full of respect, awe, and something she could barely name. "You've changed everything," she said. "Not just for my daughters, but for me and perhaps for all of Valeth." Elias shrugged, modest as always. "I didn't come here to change worlds. I came to save children. Everything else was a gift." Saria smiled softly. "It is more than a gift. It is proof. Proof that humanity, your kind, is capable of courage, of love, of strength that cannot be measured by weapons or laws. You remind us that life is precious and that hope is a force the universe cannot ignore." He glanced at the nursery where Lyra and Seelan slept peacefully, their golden light steady. "They're ready now," he said. "They'll grow strong. And maybe one day they'll teach their empire the same lessons I tried to teach them." Saria nodded. She placed a hand on his shoulder, feeling the warmth and reality of a human beside her. "Perhaps they already have. And perhaps, Elias, you've taught me something too. That even the smallest, most fragile lives can carry the power to change worlds." For a long moment, they simply stood there, watching the twin moons rise. In the silence, Saria realized that her empire, once rigid and unyielding, had been touched by something extraordinary. Humanity, in its unpredictability and courage, had left an indelible mark on Valeth. When the first light of the twin suns rose again, the palace shone not just with marble and crystal, but with hope. Lyra and Seelan would grow, strong and curious. The empire would endure. And somewhere, in the quiet strength of a human who had given everything, Saria knew that the bond between their species would last far beyond a single battle. Elias turned to her, a faint smile on his lips. "You'll be all right, Princess. They'll be all right. And the rest? Well, we'll face it together." Saria felt tears prick her eyes. She had seen the impossible. The power of a human heart in the face of despair. She understood now why the galaxy whispered of humanity, not as fragile beings, but as carriers of hope, courage, and strength that could never be measured. And as the golden light of the children's energy pulsed through the palace halls, Saria whispered softly, more to herself than anyone else, "Thank you, human. You have saved more than just my daughters. You have saved all of us." The stars sparkled over Viralia, and for the first time the princess felt a deep, unwavering certainty. Humanity, in its chaos and courage, was truly unstoppable.